Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that pile of sources you shared and, well, we dig into the interesting bits. Today, our dive is really geared towards someone, deep into triathlon, focused on training, always looking for ways to get faster. We've got a stack of articles, some reviews. It covers quite a bit. Power meters, smart bikes, watches, nutrition, even the business side of fitness. We're pulling from sites like DC Rainmaker, endurance.biz, and also the 5K Runner. That's the website, www.the5runner.com, which seems really relevant to your interests. So let's get into it, unpack this week's news, see what's new, what we've actually learned, and maybe what could help you get a bit faster.
Okay. First up, some big news that definitely hits the wallet. DC Rainmaker reported Wahoo Fitness raised prices on all their products for U.S. buyers.
Right, and the interesting part is the why. I mean, Wahoo's US-based, Atlanta, but they make their stuff mostly in Asia. And these price hikes, they're a direct hit from new US tariffs on those imports. It's a clear example of how global economics hits our gear costs. Yeah, and it's not minor adjustments across the board, is it? Some are, like, shruggable, as DC Rainmaker put it, but others, pretty significant. The Kissy KR RN treadmill, for example, saw a big jump.
Exactly. Now, some of that treadmill increase might absorb shipping costs that were separate before, but the percentage is still really high. It just shows the tight spot these companies are in with trade policy.
And DC Rainmaker pointed out, Wahoo isn't doing this elsewhere. Like, Europe prices are staying put.
Yeah, it seems like the U.S. market is absorbing the tariff impact for now. It's different from how, say, Garmin sometimes approaches pricing, aiming for global parity or using their size to buffer things.
So it definitely raises a question for you, the listener. If you're in the U.S. and we're eyeing a Wahoo product, does this change things?
Yeah, the advice given was pretty straightforward. If you were gonna buy, maybe do it soon before retailers all update their pricing.
Okay, sticking with DC Rainmaker, that massive review of the Muov indoor smart bike, this sounds like a seriously premium bit of kit.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking nearly 5,000 pounds sterling. It's definitely high-end. And the focus isn't just tech, it's materials, where it's made. It's almost entirely manufactured in the UK. They even did custom frame painting for the first, 70 buyers at a shop that does fancy cars.
That's something else. And the design's different too, isn't it? Two pieces, base and frame.
Yeah, it's designed so you can swap the frame part quickly, maybe 15-25 seconds for different rider sizes. Though DC Rainmaker did mention if you share the bike and need different crank lengths, that's not a quick swap. So a potential snag there.
But the main thing seems to be the movement, right? The lean.
Exactly. That's the standout. It allows up to 12 degrees of lean. The idea is to mimic that feeling of riding outside, the bike moving under you. The reviewer said it felt maybe a bit wobbly at first, but after adjusting, it felt much better. And interestingly, they said they actually miss that sway now when they ride a totally static bike.
Huh. So it actually changes the feel, potentially engages different muscles, not just a gimmick.
It seems like it, yeah. It suggests a different kind of ride experience compared to other smart bikes.
What about the tech side? Connectivity, Swift integration?
Pretty solid there. It supports Bluetooth FTMS and the Zwift protocol right away. That includes steering and, crucially, virtual gear indicators in the game. A lot of bikes don't have that initially. The buttons on the shifters are apparently close to Zwift play buttons, can control power-ups, ERG bias, and the shifters themselves. They're meant to feel like Shimano Di2.
Okay. DC Rainmaker did mention some things missing for now, like ANT plus connectivity or that specific Bluetooth power feed some watches need.
Yeah, a couple of omissions currently.
Yeah.
But the power accuracy, that got high praise.
How good are we talking?
Yeah, compared against top-tier pedal power meters like Favero Assioma DUO, Garmin Rally. But the Muov's readings were basically identical across different workouts, sprints, steady state, even with big temperature swings in the test environment. That's really impressive. And, the reviewer was also impressed with how Muov handled a first-gen issue, like a thermal limit thing during a hard workout. They apparently went all out to test and fix it. Shows good engineering.
So summing it up, premium, UK-made, unique movement, great accuracy, but maybe not for everyone. Pricey, missing a few features like downhill drive. Maybe tricky for sharing if crank length differs a lot.
Exactly. It feels like it's targeting a specific user who values that ride, feel, and build quality over, say, maximum feature tech boxes.
Okay, let's move to another power meter. News from Shane Miller, Gplama, reviewing the Favero Assioma PRO RS pedals.
Ah, yes, Favero. They have this reputation, right? They don't rush products out, but when they do.
They're rock solid. That's the phrase often used.
Exactly. And this new one is for the SPBSL cleat system, the Shimano road standard. Seems like it follows that pattern.
Shane Miller's verdict was pretty strong, called it the best SPD-SL power meter, and said they work flawlessly right out of the box.
And that flawlessly right out of the box part, that's huge for you as an athlete, isn't it? Less faff, more reliable data for training. Just clip in and go. He said it sets a new standard. So, yeah, sounds like another really strong option for power measurement on the bike.
Right, good to have solid options. Now, let's switch to Garmin news, pulling from the 5K runner site. First, this piece about high-frequency GPS recording, 5 hertz.
Yeah, this is where it gets potentially really interesting for data nerds like us. Most watches, they grab your location once a second, 1 hertz. Garmin's moving to 5 hertz, 5 times a second. Yeah, initially for things like downhill mountain biking, but the implications could be wider.
Okay, 5 times the data point. So what does that actually mean for you training for, say, a triathlon?
Well, on a basic level, much more precise tracks on the map. Think sharp corners looking like sharp corners, not zigzags. Potentially more accurate peak speed readings, better data on acceleration for sprints, maybe more accurate lap splits or segment times. The article drew a parallel to heart rate variability. You need high-frequency heart rate data, the RR intervals, to get real recovery insights beyond just average HR. Similarly, 5 Hz GPS might unlock new kinds of movement analysis down the line that 1 Hz just can't see.
But the 5K runner did temper that a bit, didn't they? Saying for typical running or cycling, maybe it just means Strava segments might just be a little bit more accurate.
Right. The immediate, game-changing benefit seems more geared towards really fast, dynamic sports. Windsurfing, skiing, motor racing, where a lot happens in under a second. But it does set the stage. As the tech evolves, maybe we'll see more nuanced analysis emerge from this richer data. It's about potential.
Okay, from data capture to data display. The 5K runner also looked at the watch faces on the new Garmin's. Phoenix 8, Forerunner 970 specifically.
Yeah, and while the watches themselves are feature-packed, amazing AMOLED screens, the reviewer was pretty blunt about the default watch faces, especially on the Forerunner 970, called the collection disappointing and outdated and old style, compared them unfavorably to what you see on, an Apple Watch or a Suntour Run, or even the aesthetic around Whoop.
They even said the cheaper Instinct 3 felt like it had better options.
It just highlights that even with all the advanced tech under the hood, that thing you look at constantly, the watch face, the user interface, the aesthetics, it really matters. Sure, you can customize with data fields like training readiness, HRV, body battery, but the basic designs didn't impress this reviewer. Something maybe for Garmin to think about.
Speaking of watches, still with the 5K runner, they reviewed the new Polar Grit X2.
Right, this one's positioned interestingly. It's meant to be more compact, significantly cheaper than the Grit X2 Pro, but it basically has the same core features. Polar's calling it their most compact outdoor watch ever, aiming for serious athletes, but also, weekend warriors.
Seems like a lot of watch for the price. Around $480.
It really does. You get that great AMOLED screen with sapphire glass, dual frequency GPS, full color offline topo maps, and Polar's latest Elixir biosensing platform. That's Gen 4.
Okay, Elixir. What's in that besides optical heart rate?
It includes optical heart rate, yeah, but also wrist ECG, SpO2, blood oxygen saturation, and skin temperature sensing. So quite a suite of sensors. Plus, it's got the MIL STD810H ruggedness rating and a factory replaceable battery. That last one is pretty big for long-term value.
Any downsides mentioned?
Well, the usual caveat about wrist-based optical HR accuracy varying. The reviewer specifically noted they personally struggle with wrist tech accuracy and still recommend a chest strap for workouts. That's common, though. They also found the Polar Flow app and the watch UI felt a bit dated visually, suggesting it needs an overhaul. And while it has max and turn-by-turn, you can't build routes on the watch, and the maps don't dynamically reroute you if you go off track, just guide you back.
But overall, the 5K runner seemed pretty positive, especially the value and maybe ease of use.
Yeah, definitely. They highlighted the value compared to the Pro and called out its ease of use as something maybe Garmin sometimes lacks. So for someone wanting a tough, capable outdoor watch with that Polar sensor suite and maybe preferring their ecosystem without the top-tier price, it looks like a strong contender.
Okay, let's totally switch gears. Nutrition. Crucial for performance. Endurance.biz had a piece on a new gel from a German company, Mnstry.
Ah, yeah, this sounded genuinely interesting for endurance folks. It's called the BLB-AEL40 Lemon 1.0.8, and they're calling it the world's first high-performance gel with bicarbonate.
Bicarb. Athletes use that for buffering, right, but it often causes stomach issues.
Exactly. The classic problem, you usually preload it hours before, and even then, gastric distress is super common. Plus, the effect wears off. Mnstry claims they're using encapsulation technology. The idea is to get the bicarb through the stomach and release it in the small intestine, avoiding those stomach problems.
So you can actually take it during exercise.
Right.
Without, disaster pants.
Yeah. That's the promise. Strategic bicarbonate uptake during performance. Bicarb helps buffer that acid buildup when you're going hard, stabilizes pH, lets you push longer. Each gel has 5 grams of sodium and potassium bicarb, which they say is good for strategic reloading during intense sessions.
No, and it still delivers 40 grams of carbs in that 1 to 0.8 glucose-fructose ratio.
Right, so it's doing double duty, energy and buffering. If that encapsulation really works reliably, that could be a pretty useful tool for hard efforts in races or training.
Interesting. Endurance.biz also had a quick note about Shokz, new earbuds, OpenFit 2 and 2 Plus Ec.
Yeah, just a brief mention, not many details on specs. But Shokz, known for their bone conduction, letting you hear traffic, they're obviously continuing to develop audio for athletes. Worth keeping an eye on.
Okay, one last area, the business side. Athletech News reported Peloton is getting into resale with Repowered.
Yeah, this is a smart move, probably. Their own branded marketplace for users to sell their used bikes and treads, starting small in a few U.S. cities for now.
But why? Don't people already sell them on eBay or whatever? Isn't Peloton losing a sale?
Well, that's the interesting insight. Peloton seems to recognize that the secondhand market actually feeds them new subscribers.
Yeah.
People buy used gear to get into the ecosystem. So with Repowered, they can control that experience a bit more. Maybe make it feel safer, capture some value themselves, and frame it as sustainable.
And they're encouraging it, right? Discounts on new gear if you use it, sellers get a cut?
Exactly. Sellers get 70% of the sale price, apparently, gives buyers another way in, maybe lowers the barrier, fits with their whole push to be more than just bikes and treads, the whole wellness ecosystem thing.
And this comes after a tough financial quarter for them, wasn't it? Revenues, sales, subscribers down.
Precisely. So things like resale, tripling their in-person events like that Run Club 5K, it's all part of adapting and trying to boost engagement and business in a tricky market.
Wow. Okay, we covered a lot there. From like the nitty-gritty of 5 Hertz GPS and bike lean to bicarbonate gels, watch faces, and even resale markets.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How all these different threads, the tech, the science, the global economics, the business strategy, all weave together in the world of sports and endurance.
Yeah, the data capture getting finer, the products trying to solve specific athlete problems like the bicarb gel, companies dealing with tariffs, big players like Peloton shifting strategy. It all shapes how we train.
It really does. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It definitely leaves you wondering. With all these shifts, global manufacturing, trade rules affecting prices, constant tech innovation, new business models like resale, how does this constantly changing landscape actually influence your decisions as an athlete? Deciding what gear is worth the investment or what new training approaches become possible.
There's ways more to unpack, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Digging into these sources really gives you a sense of the forces shaping our sport.
Well, we hope this deep dive gave you some useful insights, maybe spark some new questions for you to think about. Thanks for joining us.